Hello, saver. Whether you're saving for that trip to the tropics or saving for an emergency, now is the time to take advantage of Wells Fargo's savings options. Wells Fargo offers savings accounts that can help you save towards your goals. So, what are you saving for? Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/save to open a savings account today.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.
You've been dreaming about the dress. Come find the one at David's Bridal. The most glamorous designer wedding gowns are now 15% off. Bridesmaid dresses that fit beautifully start around $99. Whether you need a veil, jewelry, shoes, or even lingerie and shapewear, it's all at David's Bridal. Take 20% off outfit making accessories for a limited time. Stop by your local David's Bridal store or shop davidsbridal.com today. Terms and conditions apply.
Hey, it's Christine from Storyworthy. Today on the show, actress Lauren Weedman talks about going to a psychic and finding out devastating news.
Went to go see a psychic. I go, yeah, I'm curious maybe about my marriage. Before I even finished my sentence, she was like, oh, your marriage is over. It's over. I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to say that. That seems like telling someone you'll be dead by the morning. It's cancer. I'm like, you can't say that to somebody. I called my husband. I just had this experience, the psychic thing. And she said that, and I go, it jolted me when she said it. He didn't laugh when I told him. It wasn't. I'd assumed that he'd be like, "What? That's crazy." But it was just quiet. And I'm like, "Is there? Are you feeling like it's over in some way?" And he was like, "I don't know right now. I don't know, Lauren. I don't know. I just don't know."
Today on the show, actress Lauren Weedman shares a story about a psychic, her husband, and the babysitter. Stay close.
Hey, this is Lauren Weedman, and you are listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show or a brand new listener, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the show last week, which was Story Smash, the storytelling game show, live from the Lyric Hyperion on November 25th. Holy cow, was that a fantastic show. I hope you guys had an opportunity to listen to the audio. And the next show coming up is February 10th. Yes, 2024, February 10th, again at the Lyric Hyperion. And really, if you're in Los Angeles, you can't miss it. Story Smash, the storytelling game show, is the funniest game show you'll ever see. And like I said, you can go back and listen to it right now on Storyworthy. But not today, because today I'm here with another fantastic storyteller. Her name is Lauren Weedman, and this woman is just an amazing talent. She's an award-winning performer, author, artist, and playwright. And this girl has had over 14 full-length solo shows with multi-characters, the whole thing. I mean, she's just incredible. And this is a story she told me a couple years ago. And this story is about Lauren's husband, a psychic, and a babysitter. And things go horribly wrong. So I know you guys are going to enjoy listening to this episode of Storyworthy. And I wanted to remind you to check out storyworthypodcast.com. That's sort of ground central for everything happening. And there you'll have links for all the shows over the last 13 years of Storyworthy and links to all of my other websites as well. So definitely check out storyworthypodcast.com. And then you can also join my mailing list, which is a short note I send out about once a month. No big deal, not a lot of pressure, but I think you guys will enjoy it. And of course, check out mylifein3songs.com. That's my new podcast. Well, I mean, it's over a year old now, but it's a newer podcast for me and something I'm very passionate about. I talk to comedians about the 3 songs in their life that have impacted them. Not their favorite songs, but songs that really leave an impression on them, that paint a picture of how the comedian grew up. The show is exclusively on Spotify because we listen to the music. And of course, I don't steal music. I use Spotify's playlist. So definitely check out My Life in 3 Songs. In 2023, I had on Patton Oswalt, Jimmy Pardo, Jamie Kennedy, and so many other fantastic comedians. And I'd really appreciate if you check it out, mylifein3songs.com, listen to the show on Spotify, and tell your friends and your enemies I don't care who listens, but I really want you to check it out. All right, you guys, here comes Lauren Weedman and her fantastic story. You could check out laurenweedman.com for all things Lauren Weedman. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for the very talented Lauren Weedman.
When I was kind of at the height of things going well, of working and making money, not to be really crass about it, but it was the one time where I was like, okay, I'm on like a regular on a show, that kind of life. So kind of one little taste of that amazing crack pipe. So I would say one of the peak moments of my career, even just like health wise, like I was at a point where everything was very shiny. And the shinier it got, the more angry my husband seemed to get. And which had happened before. This is my second marriage, I'm proud to say. And the first one, I'd had a similar feeling. As soon as I started to do really well, and it sounds simplistic, but it was true. It was right when things started to feel, the more stressed out I got, also with pressure of things going well, like more expectations on you and jobs and stuff. Marriages tend to kind of get wobbly, or they can, I guess, or mine, or people I chose, or who knows. We'll save that for like my therapy. So I was working on this show, Looking, on HBO, and my husband and I were having troubles. Like, I wasn't even quite sure what it was. It seemed like at the time my theory was like, maybe he's secretly a drunk, even though he'd been sober forever. Maybe it was something to do with drinking, and because he just seemed so miserable and so miserable that kind of miserable that when you're like, you start to give him no reason to get angry at all. Like, I will be like whenever he had any sort of, he didn't like how I made fun of him in public, which was kind of what I thought he was, it's kind of my superpower is doing that. And I'm like, I always loved it before when I'd mock him in public or write plays about him. And suddenly he was getting really sensitive to that. But every time he had a complaint, I was like, okay, then you know what? Give me a sign. Like, I was always trying to make sure, especially because I felt like it must be hard. He's an actor. He didn't get to do what he's wanted to do or could be doing. He's watching me. That's gotta suck. If it were opposite, I'd be bitter. So I understand it. So I had empathy for all of that. But then this is a couple of years this was going on where he just seemed like more and more unhappy. And again, I could never put my finger on it. And finally, I at one point after many, I was always trying to have a come to Jesus moment of like, you don't seem like, well, actually, no, the moment was that I was writing a play in Boise, Idaho, and I went to go see a psychic as a kind of as material for this play. I wasn't seeking out real psychic, help. Really. I wasn't quite believing in that. And I go to see this woman, and I'm writing the notes for the play. And then at the end of our session, which she asked me if I had any other questions for me. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to not even think about the play material I'm working on. I'm just going to ask her one for shits and giggles. And I'm like, I'm curious maybe about my marriage. And before I even like finished my sentence, she was like, oh, your marriage is over. It's over. And she said it. So, and I'm like, I don't think you're supposed to say that. Like, that seems like telling someone like, you'll be dead by the morning. It's cancer. Like, I'm like, you can't say that to somebody.
Oh my
psychic.
God.
It seems irresponsible. Right. So, and I remember she said that I called my husband, who was working in Alaska as a fisherman at the time. No, he was home. He was home from that. And he'd been injured. So he said. And so I called him to go, I just had this experience, the psychic thing. And she said that. And I go, it jolted me when she said it. Because I never even thought about that my marriage is over. And he didn't laugh when I told him. Like, it wasn't, I'd assumed that he'd be like, what? That's crazy. But it was just quiet. And I'm like, are you feeling like it's over in some way? Are you feeling like this is something? And even saying it, you're like, no, this is not actually what we're talking about, right? This could not be happening. And he was like, I don't know right now. I don't know, Lauren. I don't know. I just don't know. And that was the beginning of like this deep depression of like, what's going on? My family, we had a baby together, and we separated. And
Wait a second. Yeah. That day at the psychic, what happened right after she said that? You said, session over, or why did you say that, or what are you talking about?
I got mad at her because I had been asking her questions about if I should move to Boise, because the show was about whether I was going to move to Boise or not. Anyway, I was doing that, and so I was asking all these. When she answered and said, "Okay, you're the thing about my marriage," I was like, I got mad at her. I go, I just don't think that's something you should say to people. And I go, I feel like that's a little bit extreme. And I was so blocked by even thinking it was hitting me on any level. I was just like, that's a little. And she goes, hey, don't worry though. Don't worry. You get the house. And I'm like, I live in an apartment. I rent. So again, don't know what you're talking about. And you're going to meet somebody who's more of your equal. And I felt dizzy when she was saying all this. I was like, this is nauseating to even. And then when I left, she said something. I remember thinking that, she said something about how she used to live in California, but didn't like her neighborhood because there's a lot of Mexicans in her neighborhood. And I was like, you know what? She's an awful person. Everything she says is wrong, and she's awful. So I just totally, but then when I remember I was in the car, it is in front of a 7-Eleven, and it was around noon, and it was all these worker trucks around me who were all getting lunch from the 7-Eleven and eating their lunch in their cars and in their trucks and stuff, and electricians, whatever. And I called when I was talking to my husband on the phone. His response of being just quiet and not saying anything, I started crying. I was just sobbing because it was the first time. And you know that there's a moment in a relationship when the first time that you are heartbroken or crying and they don't care, and you're like, oh God, because that's a moment when you're like, we're truly like, a boulder falls on you and they're like, I'm letting her go there. I'm going to let her just go down. Like it was, anyway, you know what I mean? It was very.
You have an epiphany.
Yes, that there was trouble, and that I didn't know exactly, but I didn't know what. I never knew what. I never knew exactly. So I'm like, we'll get a therapist. We'll try to figure this out. We're going to work this out because we have a child and everything. And then we were trying to do co-parenting. And which meant just, I wanted to do it like all my lesbian friends do it in Seattle. They're like, you go to Thanksgiving and you see all of their exes because family's family and we all love each other, And that seemed painful, but made sense to me. And he would come over, like my ex would come over, or my husband at the time would come over and spend time with my son and I, and then go to work. And he left his computer one time behind, left his backpack. And I'm a snooper by nature. I mean, I'm snooping at the babysitters. So and you'd think I would stop snooping because it's not like I find good stuff. I mean, from control top underwear to like what I found out with this was like, but the computer was my old computer because I was always giving him my used electronics. I don't know why he became bitter and angry about me. I was looking through the computer to see if in the pictures, to see if there's any old photos of Leo. So I want to make sure I got them off of there before I'm like, I don't know how much I'll be seeing him in the future. Who knows? So I am looking through there and I see this little, I go to the very, very first video in iPhoto, and I'm like, God, it looks like a naked girl on a table or something. Like it looks like she's on it. And I God, I'm getting like hot flashes, like thinking about this. I'm like, God, how much should I tell her what my son is? So I click on it, and at first I think, oh God, like I see it's our babysitter. That's been our babysitter for the last like 3 years. And when I first see her, I think, oh God, she does porno. Like I kind of thought, like she dressed really overly. She had a very sexual. She was a hot girl. Like there was we had sign language for the babysitter. It would be like the babysitter and put her hands out like big boob. And people like the soccer coaches were always like, oh, is the babysitter going to come tomorrow? Like, and I click on it, and she's talking to and of course I was also like, my God, it was awful to think that she was doing that but it made sense to me in some way. And then it was also awful to think that Jeff was watching those like looking at the videos. And and then she says his name, like she starts talking to the camera. And I was so in denial when I heard it that I literally was like, well, she said Jeff, but is it like Jeff or Geoff? It's completely hard to tell. And my friend and I that I was telling this to was like, we were joking about like, she could have been like, Jeff from 1129 Lincoln, but like could have given everything. But I've been like, well, did she say 1129 and a half? Because there is that one apartment that's like, I just was not going to be. And I had this moment of, I'd never seen I have a friend I have a friend. That's all it's on to say. No point to it. Just I have a friend. No, I have a friend in Seattle, me in Seattle, who always, when she gets upset, she's always like, I was so upset, I almost threw up. I swear to God, I threw up. And I'm like, nobody throws up from being, I've always judged her. And then I was like, oh, I didn't get sick, but I had a moment of like, oh my God, people do throw up when they hear stuff like this, when you're like, and then I thought, well, now I can, here's my moment. I can go slash tires, and I've had fantasies of this for years. Actually, it was a great fantasy as an actor and as a dramatic person. Anyway, like I get to smash in windshields and like, yeah, he did to me, Stella. But I was so nauseous I couldn't even like tip over a chair. Like and then my kid is right there. I have a small apartment. I look over on the coat rack, and there's a coat hanging there that our babysitter she'd given to me, and she's been with us. She was on her way over that day. I remember I called her and was like, I left a voicemail, and I was like, don't come over. You're not babysitting anymore. And I see the coat that she gave me, and she'd give me this coat. She used to wear it when she would come over and went to babysit, and I was always complimenting her. And it was like this sort of fake leather fur from like Forever 21 or Forever 51 was always my joke. And I was always complimenting her, and then she gave it to me, which now I know why she gave it to me, because she was like, I'm sure she was racked with guilt. But I would wear it all the time. And I remember I felt weird taking it. I was like, oh, I don't want to take it. It feels, I'm your employer. I should not take things from you. And I'm so much older. But I took it because she's like, I'm just going to give it away. You should take it. I bet it looks really good on you. And I remember my husband seeing me in it, and he was like, wow, is that the babysitter's, is that her coat? And I'm like, yes. And he's like, you know what? I would say maybe it wasn't, a little young for you, but you can kind of pull that off. And I would wear it around all the time. It was like a favorite coat. But I see the coat on the rack, and I was like, I'm going to take a knife. So I wanted to have this image of just destroying something or hurting something. And I get like a butcher knife, I get a butcher knife from the kitchen, and I go and I get the coat, and I'm like, I'm going to take this coat, and I'm going to go to the alley, and I'm going to just stab the coat, and I'm going to destroy it. And I went and I took it off the hanger. And as soon as I took it off, I was like, it's a cute coat. It shouldn't be a total loss. I shouldn't, okay, maybe want that later. So put it back. But that was, and I had that coat and I would wear that too afterwards. So it eventually what all came out, and they both were very defensive about the fact that they had one little thing that had happened, and he had been her teacher. They had met each other as he was a teacher, and she was very young. And it was I realize now, 7 years later, that I was basically in shock for the last, six and a half years, let's say. But I didn't want to tell people. And I am pretty open to kind of a problematic degree, that's usually the shtick about me, is like, she's got no filter, she's still everything. And suddenly I was at this preschool, overpriced, no, great preschool. I don't know why I'm complaining about it. But we were, anyway, I spent most of the money I made on sending Leo to this preschool. And I didn't want the moms to know. And then one day I'm picking up Leo from school, and somebody says something about how they're sorry about the divorce. They heard that we were separating, and that it seemed like, Jeff was having a really hard time. And apparently, and then one of the moms, who I consider a cool mom told me, she said, just so you know, everybody assumes, because you always seem so okay. Because like when I come to drop off Leo, I'm always like, hello, here to drop off. She's like, you just seem like, and we all know things are going really well for you. So it seemed like maybe you just kind of traded him in, as if I was like, well, now that I'm on the set, I think I like a different husband. I deserve a better husband. I'm working, and it was truly the assumption of these mothers that I probably did that. And they would see my ex coming to pick up Leo, drop off, and he would be crying like, oh. Everybody felt sorry for him. And that was the moment when I realized that everybody was like giving me the cold shoulder and taking care of him because he was so emotional about it, that I told them, I go, just so you know, that, the babies. And I've got two words out. And this wonderful, amazing Persian dentist mom who I love was like, you let that hooker in your house? Why did you let that hooker in your house? I seen this girl. No. You don't let that hooker in your house. Why would you do this? And I was like, oh my God, I never, in my mind, because she was beautiful or sexual, that was more reason to show that I could handle that. Mm-hmm. And it wouldn't, not handle it. But
it doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter. You were trying not to let it matter.
No, it shouldn't matter. And also she's a young girl.
Yeah.
And even if she was overly sexual, I would still be like, there's something going on there. I'm not going to immediately vilify it as being like, you get that hooker out of your house. But then when the dentist mom said that, I was like, I had a moment of like, wow, that's so confident. It's her saying like, get away from my man. She's like, if you're on a diet, do you bring cookies in the house? If you've been chocolate in the house, don't bring it. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't think like that. I didn't think like, get away from my man. I didn't, but I guess I'm glad I didn't think like that. But then they, oh my God.
But that was another epiphany when she said that. In other words, I remember after my first husband, epiphanies kept coming. And I just remember very clearly, like my dad saying to me something like, honey, you get every dollar you can because you'll never talk to this guy again. And he was right.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And I remember thinking like, well, that's harsh, but I hear what he's saying. And sure enough, it doesn't matter if you were married 2 weeks ago. Now you're not, and it's over. I mean, at that point, because I was young, but
I was really not able to, I got stuck in a room I couldn't get out of. I was really in this room of this story, and I love stories so much, and that's what I work with. Then I felt like I can't tell this story. I can't tell it. It's not fair to my child. But I write about it, and then I'm like, God, the cruelest thing that my ex has done to me is give me the greatest story ever.
All right, now was that a great story or what? I mean, she just had epiphany after epiphany, and like she said, she just didn't see this coming, and. It's just tragic, absolutely tragic. I mean, I guess it's better that it happened sooner than later and all that. And I'm glad they're able to co-parent together. But honestly, how devastating. Absolutely devastating. Anyway, you guys, don't forget, check out storyworthypodcast.com and then follow my new show, My Life in 3 Songs, over there on Spotify. Also, if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel, I've got a lot of good stuff going on over there on YouTube. Just look for Christine Blackburn on YouTube. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Lauren Weedman, thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Christine Blackburn saying, make it a story-worthy week.
To the rear, and you can follow me. I'll take you down to the river. Follow me. I'll keep you safe. Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.
Wells Fargo presents one of the surest ways to grow your money. A Wells Fargo CD account, where you can earn a 5.00% annual percentage yield on an 11-month term with a minimum opening deposit of $5,000. Visit a Wells Fargo branch or wellsfargo.com/CD rates to open a CD account and start growing your savings with us.
Wells Fargo Bank, N.A., member FDIC.